So for today's video, I'm going to be doing a Q&A, and I will be joined by O'Malley, and we are going to answer some questions that you guys wanted to know, because I've now been making YouTube videos for a whole year, and I talked a little bit about myself in my painting a self-portrait video last year, but I haven't really ever done a Q&A before, so I was curious about what you guys wanted to know about me. I posted on my Instagram, and now we have some questions that we can answer, and hopefully O'Malley doesn't mess up too many things in the background while I'm answering questions. What got you first interested in art? I think this is a question that a lot of artists get. I'm happy to answer, but it's not a clear, concrete answer. So can you not? Okay. There she goes. I've literally been interested in art since I was a toddler. I'm not even kidding. I started drawing very early on, like age 2, I would say, was when I made my first ever self-portrait. It wasn't great, but I was really interested in it. I loved drawing. I always had a crayon in my hand. And I've just been drawing ever since. It was never something that I wasn't interested in. So it's been a lifelong journey. I was born in the early 90s, so cartoons and animation were a big deal then. Come on, bug. Come here. We had Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, Disney movies were still, that was, we had the Renaissance and golden age of Disney. We also had a lot of more exciting cartoons, like on WB Kids, there was like Shaolin Showdown and Static Shock, X-Men Evolution, Winx Club, things like that. I was always watching cartoons. It was a big thing for me. I was always interested in them. And it really framed the way I did storytelling as a kid. I was a very visual thinker as a kid. I still am today. Whenever I daydream or think of stories or tell stories or just kind of am in my own thoughts, there's always pictures with it. And getting to see all of these different styles of animation and different forms of storytelling through animation really made a big impact on me as a kid. And I think really honed in that sense of inspiration in me, realizing that you can do so much with art instead of just doing paintings and still life drawings. But in that sense, I still was very interested in art history. I used to say as a kid that I wanted to move to Paris and be a famous French painter. So I really liked that traditional style of painting as well from an early age. And so I think the two combined really just pushed me in that direction to keep going with my art from a really young age. Who was your biggest inspiration during high school, and who was your biggest inspiration after high school? So I really like how specific this question was worded, because instead of just asking who was my biggest inspiration overall, it really gave me 2 specific timelines to go off of, and I really like that because it does make a difference. So I can't say that there was ever at any time just one person or thing that inspired me. In high school specifically though, I was really inspired by Rumiko Takahashi, who you may know as the author of Ranma Half, Inuyasha, now the new Inuyasha spin-off, which I haven't watched yet or read. I should get on that. But that was a big deal for me. That was the first anime and manga that I really took direct art inspiration from. I had watched a lot of anime and I had read a lot of manga, but that art style for those specific stories really just made me want to study that style. And I did a lot of studies from scenes from the manga. I would recreate it and just really use those as a tool to figure out what I liked about anime style drawing and what I liked about American cartoon style drawings. But I wasn't just into anime in high school. I was also really inspired by an American artist called Amy Brown. I didn't know it at the time, but she is a watercolor fantasy artist, and she does use salt techniques in her art. I didn't even know that was a thing. Back in high school, I wasn't studying art. When I was in school, I was actually studying to go into film production. So now, as an adult who does watercolor fantasy illustrations with salt, it's funny to look back, and I actually have some of her artwork framed that was gifted to me in high school by a family friend, and I still have them to this day. They're actually hanging in this room. So that was really fun to realize that her art made a bigger impact on me then than I realized at the time. What are you doing? After high school, I kind of strayed away from the anime style of drawing, or I attempted to. I'm still, getting to that semi-realism style of my art. And so now, because I'm as an adult and as an artist on the internet, there's so many artists out there. So it's hard to just pinpoint one big source of inspiration for me post high school, because there's just so many different people and places to draw inspiration from. Off the top of my head, a couple of artists that I am hugely inspired by today are Life Illustration, Miss You Pacey, Lord Gris, Kellogg's Loops, Kelly McKernan is another big one, Dilly Pickles. I mean, there's so many artists on Instagram, on Facebook that are, on their own portfolios that are out there. And I just am awe-inspired by all of them. I will make a full list in the description linking all of these artists and creators so you can check them out. I do a lot of posts on my Instagram stories where I will feature art that I see that inspires me on Instagram. So that's another way, if you want to see what inspires me, is to follow me on Instagram and check out those stories. I pretty much do that every day because there's never a lack of amazing art to be inspired by. And on that note, the next question is, do you have any inspirations, whether it be people or media, that motivate you to draw? So, like I just said, there's a million things out there that inspire me and get me excited to work on art. So we have all those Instagram artists that I follow, but there's more than just that. I'm inspired just by kind of everything. I am one of those people that I can just stare out a window for hours and just look at nature. I see a pretty flower and I take a picture of it because it made me think of an art piece. 2 years ago, I actually was inspired to draw a piece because I was gathering worms for my boyfriend to go fishing, and I looked into the bucket full of worms and dirt and moss, and it inspired me to make a fantasy art piece. So like anything can get me inspired to create something. It's kind of, you always have to be open and just kind of view the world in that way, and inspiration will come to you from anywhere and everywhere. When I go to movies are a big inspiration for me, especially animated movies. That's always, whenever I go and see a Disney movie in particular, I always want to go home and draw a million things. Another source of inspiration for me is I'm a member of a couple of Discord groups for artists. And so talking to other artists and sharing our work and sharing our experiences and just kind of keeping each other inspired, that's a big help for me. I kind of rely on them whenever I'm at my lows and when I'm at my highs to just keep me on that art momentum, and just kind of drawing inspiration from their work and just it's just about letting things excite you and honing that excitement into art momentum. How do you stay inspired and tips to keep that inspiration? So, like I said, just keep your eyes open, view the world in a beautiful way, because it is beautiful, and you'll notice the beauty in those things and let it inspire you. And even if it's something weird, like worms in a bucket, don't question it, just go with it. just ride that art wave and just see what you make, because some weird things can turn into beautiful pieces and some beautiful things can turn into weird pieces. You never know. That's the beauty of it. But for me, if I'm specifically looking to get inspired and I'm kind of lacking in that inspiration, I do go to Pinterest a lot. I have a Pinterest board just called Inspiration, and I'll just scroll through Pinterest and just save everything that, if it's kind of like that Marie Kondo method is what I do with my Pinterest. Anytime I see a piece or a picture on there, if it sparks joy, it immediately gets put into a Pinterest board. And then they just keep growing and growing. And then if I need inspiration, I can just go there and scroll for a couple minutes until something sparks in me. I also listen to a lot of music when I am drawing and painting. So I have a specific playlist. It's called Violin, which is very original. But as you can guess by the name, it is violin music, but it's violin covers of modern day songs. So it's a kind of cheat way for me to listen to music without being distracted by the lyrics. And it really works well for me. I've been listening to it for years. It kind of it feels artsy, if that makes sense. When I'm listening to the music, it kind of puts me in that headspace. And so I kind of like trained my brain that when I want to get into that art mode, I can play this playlist and I just am like, okay, let's do it. Let's feel the music, let's feel that artistic inspiration, and let's just make some magic. And sometimes it comes out like butt, but I have a good time anyways because I'm listening to good music. So you can't go wrong with that. Another way I stay inspired is to just not try to be inspired. I take lots of breaks. If I push myself too hard to work on art and to stay inspired, I get burnout. I put too much pressure on myself and it just works in the opposite direction for me. So taking breaks is a big deal for me, especially with my chronic health issues. I have to really, just ride it out and not push myself and just kind of let the ideas come and go as they do. And if I can work on art when I'm inspired, that's great. If I'm not inspired, I'm not gonna force it. And sometimes even just not even thinking about art, if I just turn it off for a little bit, that's usually when the ideas will start coming because I'm not forcing it, if that makes sense. So just kind of go with it. It's a fluid thing. Don't force it, don't push it, just be and try to find inspiration. But if it's not coming, it'll find you eventually. You don't always have to look for it. It'll make itself known when it's time. What styles have been your favorite over the years? So definitely that early anime style from the 80s, 90s and onward. I definitely loved that as a kid. Prior to that though, even before anime, I loved that classic American cartoon style. Those really blocky people with either circle heads or square heads. Nobody ever had 5 fingers. It was always 4 fingers or nubs like the Powerpuff Girls. Just that really simplistic American cartoon style was a big thing for me as a kid. That's all I ever drew. I wanted to be a cartoonist, but so I really loved cartoons to anime. And now I am really appreciating that semi-realistic stylized illustration that has grown in popularity over the past couple of years. What are your favorite brands and why? So this was a really hard question because I can't really say that anything right now is my favorite. And that's because I know that my current supplies that I'm using are all really cheap and really remedial. They're, I don't buy expensive art products, and that's on me. Like I've said in other videos, I don't think of my art as worthy of good art products, so I tend to buy things that are cheaper because I know if whatever I make with them sucks, I'm not wasting the supplies, if that makes sense. So nothing that I use is really my favorite because I know that there are better things out there to use that probably would become my favorites, but I'm just too in my head and afraid right now to actually take the plunge into using better and more professional supplies and brands. Like, I can say my watercolor paper is Strathmore. I really like their watercolor paper pads right now, and I probably won't ever really stray from that. I like them, they're affordable, and they work really well for everything that I've thrown at them. So that is probably the one thing that I can say is my favorite. But other than that, I don't know. Maybe one day I'll know. Maybe one day I can do my favorite art supplies video. But as for right now, I don't really have any because everything I buy is ridiculously cheap and probably from a craft store or Walmart. Says, what is your favorite color to paint with? So that was an easy one, blue. I didn't know it at the time, but I went back and looked through a lot of my paintings and a lot of them have blue in it. So it must be just the color that I'm very drawn to painting with. And I do like blue. It's a good color. It's not my favorite color, but it's a good color. And I really like the way it works for my art style. Oh, and then follow-up question. Do you have a favorite color that you like to use in art or just in general? So just in general, my favorite color is purple. But purple is really hard to paint with, I've noticed. And this has been for multiple different brands. For whatever reason, whenever I paint with purple paint, it comes out a little bit splotchier than the other colors. And I don't know if that's because it's a mixed color, but it's just, I haven't had a smooth painting experience with purple as of yet. Ooh, that's very distracting. And then again, my favorite colors to paint with are blues and reds. And red is included in that because it reacts really nicely with salt. And I usually hate red, but once I started painting with red and putting salt on it, I realized it is so expressive. So I really like painting with red. And then blue, the same. It also reacts really well with salt, and it's just a really pretty color. I'm realizing how hilarious that is that blue and red make purple. So, full circle. What have you and O'Malley been watching together? So, this was obviously asked by somebody that follows me on Instagram because I am always posting videos and pictures of me and O'Malley cuddling in bed at night watching TV. It is our nightly routine. I always have to watch TV before bed. I'm one of those people. It helps me wind down. And I love rewatching shows that I've watched before because I don't have to stay up wondering what's going to happen next. I know what's going to happen next, so I can just go to sleep when I feel tired and not feel compelled to stay awake to watch the show. So, and I absolutely love every crime drama that has ever been invented ever. So right now, O'Malley and I are rewatching the entire series of Criminal Minds. Well, for me, it's rewatching. For her, since she is only a year and a half old, it's a brand new show for her. And she does watch TV. I've never had a cat before that watches TV, but she watches TV. She really likes it when Gideon is interrogating suspects, but he is not in the current season we're watching, so she's kind of tuned out a little bit. But hopefully another character catches her attention better. But she really liked season 1 Gideon. He really caught her attention, and she loves sitting either on the bed with me or in her cat tree and just watching the TV. Aurora doesn't watch TV, but just as a little side note, Aurora's only thing that she's ever been captivated by is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. For whatever reason, that movie is the only thing that she's ever sat and watched. I think it's the animation style for her, but other than that, Aurora could care less about TV. Okay, that's a good question. What is the one thing you can't stand about art or drawing art? So that was a really immediate, I knew the answer to that question. The one thing I can't stand about being an artist, because I don't consider myself an artist, but we're getting there, is the curve from when your brain and eyes can see something that needs to be improved in your art to where your hands and body can physically do what needs to be improved in your art, if that makes any sense. So it's this, if I can find an article to it, I will link it in the description because it's really interesting. So there is this moment in our brains where we can see something that's wrong, but we don't yet have the technical abilities to fix that thing. So you get into this limbo where you can say, okay, I know what a nose should look like, and I want to draw a nose in the way that I know it should look like, but I don't yet have the abilities to figure out how to make a nose look like the way my brain knows it should look. I said nose too many times. That was a terrible example, but I hope that you were able to keep along with that, if that makes any sense. So that's the most frustrating part of being an artist, is just seeing in your head what you want to make and just not having the ability yet to make it the way you see it. And that's where practice comes in handy. That's where studies come in handy. You know, you can only improve through practice. So eventually you will have the technical abilities to do what your brain wants you to do, but there is this like just bubble of time where you're just staring at your hands and going, why can't you make things? Why is it not working? And it's really frustrating. I think for a lot of artists that is a quitting point, because they just feel like they can't do it, but you can just keep up with it. It's just one of those things. And I think it's good in a way because it keeps you, if you can get past the discouragement, it keeps you motivated. So you can use that frustration to motivate and push yourself to get to that point that you want to. And then once you draw a nose the way you want to, it's a big deal. It's an even bigger deal because you know that you worked for it and you practiced for it and you really made an effort to get to a place in your art journey that you wanted to. So it's like a love-hate relationship, but for me, that is like the worst part of being an artist. Especially if you're somebody who has self-esteem issues or has motivation issues, it could be a real big setback sometimes, but you just have to keep at it. Is there a reason why you picked watercolors as your medium? So yes, there is a reason, a very specific reason. So I am at heart a traditional artist. I've tried digital art. I'm still trying digital art. It doesn't resonate with me the way traditional art does. So for me, I started off with just pencil, and then I moved on to colored pencil, and colored pencils were just too textured for me, and I really wanted things to blend and be smooth. And so watercolor seemed like the next logical step. I went from colored pencils to watercolor pencils first and then watercolors. So I did kind of gradually get myself into watercolors, but I knew what I wanted from my art. I knew where I wanted it to go, and I knew how I wanted it to look. And colored pencils and regular pencils just weren't doing it for me. And I really wanted that smooth, that blend, that way to like flow colors. And there's something about like paint that just really like, it just sits well with me. I love paint and I love painting. And I really love the feel of having an actual paintbrush in my hand and mixing the paints. And like I said, it just really resonates with me to paint in a traditional art way. So that's why I chose watercolors. I think, and there's so many fun things you could do with watercolors. Like once I learned I could throw salt in there, game changer. And now I'm kind of experimenting with mixed media. I have some acrylic paints that I'm gonna be messing around with. I wanna do gouache, and I know that you can combine those into one big painting. So that's something, I think there's just a lot of different things you can do with watercolor paints and then other paints and other mediums on top of it. There's just a world of possibilities that I want to explore. And watercolor is just, I think, the way to go for me. What was the one project that you never finished that you want to go back to one day? This was a great question. I mean, they've all been great questions, but this was a question that I wasn't even expecting. And it really made me sit and think, and I went, oh, what is something that I want to, revisit? Because a lot of times for me, once I move on from something, I kind of get a little goldfish brain and I forget, and I just never go back to it. Or if there was a specific reason it didn't work out, I get discouraged and I just kind of want to move forward, and I don't think about that project that didn't work out. So this really made me think and go, ooh, there are things that I could revisit that didn't work out the first time. So after I thought about it, I would say that there was this series that I wanted to do of gemstone goddesses. Everybody always wants an artist to do a zodiac and astrology illustrations, that kind of thing. And I think, not that there's anything wrong with that, I probably will do something in that realm of possibilities at some point, but I wanted to do something a little different. And my boyfriend actually sells gems, rocks, and minerals and crystals, things like that. So at the time he was just starting his business, we were actually going out and like mining for crystals ourselves. And it really just inspired me to make a birthstone series instead of an astrology series, which I would love to do that. It was a big deal for me. I was really excited about it. And that was just something that people can identify with instead of, like me, I'm a Virgo, but my birthstone is a sapphire. So it was still a way for people to identify with a specific piece without doing, you know, the same old Virgo pieces that I've seen a million times. Not that there's anything wrong with those. I love them, and I probably will do that one day, but I just wanted to do something different and like crazy colorful because gemstones. So I tried to do that. I made the first one, which was garnet, for January. I posted it on Tumblr when that was still a thing that people used. And I immediately got hate messages from this angry guy who was sick of Steven Universe art. It wasn't Steven Universe art. I don't watch Steven Universe. It was just a personified gemstone, which now I know is what Steven Universe is. And it was such a big deal at the time that I went, I don't want to get mixed in with that. I don't want people to think that I'm recreating Steven Universe characters. I felt like it wasn't a good time to do this project in the way I wanted to. So I completely scrapped it. It was the first hate mail that I ever, no, actually, it was the second hate mail that I ever got. And it just totally discouraged me. But you know what? I'm in a better place now. I'm further along with my art. And I probably, like, that might be one of the next projects that I take on, is revisiting these gemstone goddesses. Another project that I want to maybe get back to, which is the first piece of hate mail I ever got, also on Tumblr, was fan art. When you draw fan art, everybody has an opinion about whatever character you're drawing. So I got accused of whitewashing Starfire, who is orange. Anyways, I was drawing her orange. It was a work in progress. It wasn't a finished piece. And I got hate mail about that. And I went, you know what? I can't do anything right. I guess I shouldn't draw fan art anymore. But there were a bunch of fan art pieces that I really wanted to do. And you know what? I have a thicker skin now. I'm also not on Tumblr anymore because people on Tumblr are mean. So maybe that's also something that I will get back into, is doing more fan art with my original art. I kind of wanted to see what I could create from my own brain first, but now I've kind of learned how to incorporate my own personal style into fan art a little bit better. So I think that is something that I will get back to in bits and pieces. And the final question is, what are my goals for my art, my YouTube channel, and my social media in general? What are my goals for all of this? Why am I doing these things? Which is a good question. It made me really like sit back and go, ooh, what are my goals? I don't really have any. I kind of just wanted to just do these things because they make me happy. And I just wanted to, that was my main inspiration and my main motivation, was like, just do it because it makes me happy. And it's fun, and I wanted to find a way to make art more fun for me, and this has totally achieved that goal for me. So that was my goal when I started, but I guess now that I'm there, what are my goals moving forward? So for my art specifically, I just want to keep making art, keep making bigger, better pieces, keep evolving, and maybe someday start making some profits. It's not, you know, the be-all end-all for me. It would be nice to know that people out there are interested in owning pieces that I've created. I mean, that is a huge compliment, and would be definitely nice and encouraging. So I could say that that is a goal for my art, is to just be a more established artist, and to get myself out there a little bit more and maybe make some sales and commissions along the way. But it's really just, I just like doing it. I get sad if I don't work on art. So let's see, for my YouTube channel, I don't really have too many goals for the YouTube channel. I just want it to be a fun place, and I think we're getting there. My last video, people said they really enjoyed watching. It was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun making it with my mom. I'm talking about the Bob Ross video. And I definitely want to do more things like that. I want to do more fun things, way to take art and just make it enjoyable. You know, as an artist, I enjoy watching videos of other people creating art, but I know that there are people out there that aren't artists, and I want to be able to have my channel be a place for people that are interested in art and people that just like watching videos for the hell of it. So those are my goals for my YouTube channel. And then my goals for my social media. Social media sucks. I have no goals because no matter what my goals are, they get squashed. You can't have goals on social media because social media is ever changing. People jump from one platform to the next. Corporations buy different platforms, they get merged. It's all the same thing now. So it's impossible to make goals. I would love for my Instagram to one day, you know, reach 1,000 followers, which is like a blip. It's like nothing. But at this point, you can't even put stock in that because it's just such a like endless void of who knows what's going on that it's really hard to set any attainable goals and stick with it, because you kind of have to be fluid with social media and just kind of go with it. You can't ever predict how things are going to go on social media. So, you know, I am trying to get into TikTok more. I really love TikTok. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy watching videos. Making videos, however, for me is a little bit harder, but that's something that maybe I will work on. I will try. And I've completely given up on Facebook. If you follow my Facebook page, you're just getting regurgitated posts from my Instagram. There's no new content there. Facebook for me is just a way to take whatever I post on my Facebook page and just share it on my personal page so that like my family members can see it. But there's nothing. Facebook is a lost cause. I'm still hoping for Instagram to come back around and make things easier for creators and artists, because it is stressful on Instagram right now. We're not doing so hot on Instagram, but you know, TikTok's a lot of fun. YouTube is a lot of fun. So I'm just gonna keep doing what I want to do and keep making content that I want to make and just hope for the best. And whoever wants to join me on this ride, welcome. I appreciate you. Thank you for watching me and giving me the opportunities to do these things. So I guess that wraps it up. O'Malley has left us. Oh, I bet if we shake her treats, she'll come running. Hold on. Let's see. Here she comes, like clockwork. Hello, bug. I'll let her come say goodbye. All right, well, thank you for watching. Bye. You gonna say bye? You gonna say bye?